Hi, everybody. Today, I want to share with you a concept that comes up ever so often in my coaching practice. So, let's say you have a dream or a desire of becoming a CEO of your company, of your own entrepreneurial enterprise, etc. Or you want to become a better parent, more calmer parent, better spouse, or you want to pick up a creative career. You want to branch out into something more creative, etc., etc. So, we all have from time to time these dreams and desires. However, there is that inner voice that nags us telling us, isn't it too late? Are you sure you can do it? Do you think you have the right opportunities? Do you have the right talent? Do you know the right people? Etc. etc. So it's the voice of that inner critic that keeps coming up in our lives. And the inner critic, the modality of the inner critic is that it sends us down a negative spiral of emotions. It brings up painful memories as evidences of why we shouldn't or couldn't do certain things. Fear of the future, anxiety about what will go wrong, what will people think, painful feelings, fear, shame, anger, etc. Now, when we want to achieve a goal, there are two aspects to it, isn't it? There is the doing aspect of it, which is the strategy action piece, but there is also the mindset that has to go along with it. Now, if your inner judge or inner critic is constantly on your way telling you can't do something, the efficacy of those actions will not be as much as if you were to move the inner judge out of the way and think and feel freely, think and do things freely. So this is about opening yourself up to a potential and not becoming weak. So the inner judge or critic, when they are running the show, they send you down a spiral of emotions which will weaken you physically, mentally, and emotionally, and you're not as present to your opportunities. Does that make sense? Okay, so that is a swirl of emotions when the person or thing running the show is your inner judge. Come to think of it, most of us judge ourselves worse than we would our worst enemies, if at all we have enemies. You know what I mean? So what if we were to flip the coin and think of ourselves in more positive, empowering ways? That is because in addition to the inner critic, we have another access to another power inside our own minds, inside our own beings, which is called the sage, which I choose to call sage. So sage is that seat of consciousness, wisdom, intelligence, clear thinking, progressive action, effective communication, etc., etc. So the inner sage comes alive when you let go of the inner critic, when you really acknowledge there is an inner critic driving the show, and ask him or her to step aside and say, hey, judge, come and run the show. Because the judge is part of your system, but over a period of time, because as a society, we hear more of the inner critic than the sage, we have the voice of that inner sage is rather weak. But it's time to deepen that connection so you have access to more of your own personal resources. And now the beauty of accessing your own personal resources is, however not conducive the external environment is, however, let's say, not conducive to your ideas, thoughts, desires, etc. The external condition is, once you raise your sense of personal power, once you raise your sense of resourcefulness, once you look at your opportunities by being a friend to yourself and a cheerleader to yourself rather than be an enemy, you become open to more opportunities. You see more opportunities around you. So you can think of certain situations in the past when you approach situations with, what's the best I can do here, right? Rather than, oh, I have nothing at my disposal, right? These are two different ways of thinking. One is a victim mentality, one is an ownership mentality. The energy with which you approach situations, the quality of thought with which you approach situations are different. And because of that, the quality of the outcomes, the results, the success is different, is much more brilliant. So that is the difference of operating in sage versus judge mode. You might ask me, how do I then work more from a sage mode rather than the inner judge mode? So I have 3 steps for you. Different problems, same solution, right? Whether it's a problem related to personal life, professional life, whether it's change of career, whether it's becoming a better parent, etc., etc., it is the same solution. Acknowledge. Step 1 is stop self-sabotaging by acknowledging that your inner critic judge is in the driver's seat. So just realizing that, it's a huge aha for my clients, right? oh my God, I'm operating from that inner critic mode where I'm being too harsh on myself, my surroundings, etc. So that acknowledgement is step one. Step two is know that you have a choice, that you can pivot, knowing that you have at least two options to operate from the critic mode or from the sage mode. So just realizing that you have a choice. Step three is acting, if you wish, from an empowered point of view, which is the sage mode. So shifting to the sage mode and acting from there. Now, how does acting from a sage mode look like? It could be different things. For example, if there is a conflict in your personal situation, private situation, or at work, it's taking a step back and thinking, I don't want to add fuel to a fire. Let me take a step back, take a deep breath, and evaluate what is the next course of action that I need to take. Probably it is to stay silent and address when the situation has calmed down, right? Or in a different situation, when you're stuck in a difficult problem, it could be asking yourself an empowering question rather than a disempowering question. Empowering question is from the sage mode. Disempowering question is from the inner critic mode. So examples of empowering questions could be, I have this challenge in front of me. What is the best I can do about it? What internal resources do I have? What inner resources do I have at my disposal to make the situation 10%, 5% better? Right? So asking yourself questions from a solution oriented mode rather than a problem mode makes you shift to sage from saboteur, to sage from inner critic, right? That helps you move to an ownership mode from a victim mode, because victim mode is not going to help anybody. So those are the three steps. So this in essence is mental fitness. Here I would use the analogy of physical fitness. When you want to run a marathon, or you want to at one point lift 50 kilograms of weight, you wouldn't start with 50 kilograms. You wouldn't start with 52 kilometers. You would start with 1 kilogram, and you would go to the gym very regularly. You will feed your body the right nutritious food. Just like that, mental fitness is a consistent daily activity, which when done over weeks and months, you will reap rich benefits of having mental clarity, thinking from a more empowered place, etc. So these three steps that I just shared, if you can apply every single day, you will reap benefits, right? That is that physical lifting of, similar to the physical lifting of the gym weight to improve your bicep strength. And then feeding your body nutrition, the analogy to apply in mental fitness is feeding yourself the right thoughts. Are you feeding yourself empowering thoughts? And this is not to say you have to lie to yourself about the challenges. It's about looking at the challenges and not getting bogged down and asking yourself questions like, yes, there is a challenge. There is something to be learned. What can I learn? How can I improve the situation? How can I get over this challenge? What is the best way? Right? So that is that mental fitness, that food, that brain food I want you to give, or the mind food I want you to give yourself as you build your mental fitness. So this concept is based on the concept of this theme is based on the concept of positive intelligence. You can read up on that. I've talked about that several times. It's developed in Stanford Labs. It's a very amazing concept. Clients are having great results applying this. People who have up until a few months ago, 3-4 months ago, who have been operating from an anxiety-ridden mode are now breaking through and operating from a place of empowerment, from a place of possibilities. They're having successes, including mental well-being, right? Including promotions, including job races, change, positive turnaround in personal relationships, etc. All that is success, isn't it? So that is happening. So that is a mental fitness you too can have when you apply these three steps on a daily basis. There is a lot of scientific research that is done on this concept of positive intelligence. It is an amalgamation of psychology, neuroscience, and performance science. So this is not wishy-washy talk. This is something that is based on scientific research. If you need more information, you can go into positiveintelligence.com and read up for yourself, or reach out to me. I'm happy to give more information. So to summarize, let's say you have a fork in the road, which could be a challenging situation or a vexing problem in front of you. An event has occurred. You can either act from the saboteur or inner critic judge mode, where the perspective always is, this is bad, the world is going to dogs, I am ruined. That could be the inner critic way of doing things or way of believing in things. Or you could shift to a sage mode, where you can ask yourself, what is the gift? What is the lesson? What is it that I can take forward? So for example, If your boss has given you a very critical feedback, your inner critic might just go into the realm of thinking, oh, my job, my career is ruined, my boss hates me. But this the sage in you might encourage you to think from a more empowered perspective. What is the positive thing I can take away from this? For example, oh, my boss has said I need to improve my XYZ skills. Let me go improve that, because that will make me even stronger a candidate for the next promotion cycle, or for creating an amazing skill in, developing an amazing skill. So that is the sage perspective. So in essence, at the background, you're actually rewiring your neural pathways. Now that's topic for a separate conversation. Like I said, this whole concept is based on neuroscience, psychology, etc., etc. So I'll do a separate video on that later. And if you're interested, you can reach out to me. So in summary, the few questions I want you to reflect on based on this video is, what if you had access to a different power and not just the voice of the inner critic? What if you had access to the sage? What is possible for you? What story would you choose? Would you choose disempowering stories or empowering perspectives? Would you tell stories like, I can do this, I've got this, I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna get it done, right? This is important for me, I'm gonna find a way out. Who would you become in the process? I would think more resilient, more creative, more calm, more centered, and more successful. So yeah, that's what I wanted to leave you with today. If you have questions, reach out to me. And this is part of the journey that I take my clients through in my one-to-one work with them. So if you're interested in breaking through your mental barriers and actually making lasting progress on your goals, reach out to me. I'll be happy to have a chat. Take care and all the best.